IndyCar has had many drivers cycle in and out of the sport, but not everyone gets their fair shot. And the main culprit of that to me in recent years is Linus Lundqvist. Lundqvist entered my radar back in 2023 as he was actually one of the very few drivers that held the necessary points for an F1 Super license. And this was during the whole Colton Herta at AlphaTauri debacle, where Herta didn't have enough points, but Lundqvist somehow did. This was done through his junior campaigns, mainly in Indy Lights, which was the previous name for Indy NXT, and also the Formula Regional Americas series. Formula Regional Americas was the first of the two Lundqvist competed in back in 2020, where he absolutely dog-walked the competition, and he won 15 of the 17 races, and beat second place in the standings, which was David Malukas, by 118 points. He did pretty similarly in his two seasons in Indy Lights in 2021 and 2022, where in his first year he finished third, behind only Kyle Kirkwood and David Malukas, and in 2022 he went back to his winning ways and won the championship by 92 points over Stingray Robb. Now, obviously, this kind of success got him some attention, but not in the same way as others. In 2023, we saw a good amount of rookies on the grid, like Agustin Canapino coming from Turismo Carretera, and Marcus Armstrong in F2. And both Stingray Robb and Benjamin Peterson making their way from the Indy Lights series that Lundqvist had beat them in. But they had something that he didn't, and that wasn't talent, it was money. Per usual, a lot of drivers bring more money than others, whether it be family money, huge sponsorship backing, or something else. But Lundqvist had something going for him, and that was that the Indy Lights Championship offered a scholarship program for the champion. But to his dismay, he was just a year late. In previous years, the Indy Lights Championship scholarship awarded $1.2 million, as well as an Indy 500 entry and 2 other race entries during the season, and an IndyCar test for the top 3. But in 2022, that all changed. The money award was reduced to $500K, and the rest of the perks vanished. The money that was removed from the prize fund was distributed to the top finishers at individual races, but not given to the drivers, but the teams instead. For Linus Lundqvist, this was absolutely devastating, with him already on thin margins to fund his Indy Lights campaign to begin with, as the Formula Regional Americas title he won gave him a prize fund that allowed him to compete in Lights in the first place. The reduction in payment shifted his chances of finding a full-time ride next year, and kinda made him being on the outside looking in. And the thing that makes it worse, though, is the level of communication. According to Lundqvist's camp, they had been told the prize would at least be the same as 2021, where Kyle Kirkwood walked away with $1.2 million. But until Lundqvist asked, after the season had already ended, they were told the prize was $500K, and there was no official announcement that was ever made otherwise. In other words, Lundqvist's team did everything right and did what was in their best prospects, but just kind of had the rug pulled from underneath them. And to make matters worse, the prize for winning Indy Pro 2000, the series underneath Lights, was $600,000, and that was awarded to Louis Foster. So the series underneath Lights made more than Indy Lights itself, just rubbing salt in the wound. Anyways, all the misfortune, but Lundqvist did have one stroke of luck, and that was opportunity. At Mid-Ohio, Meyer-Shank driver Simon Pagenaud suffered a pretty brutal crash, and a sub was needed, so the team went to Lundqvist. On his debut in Nashville, he qualified a respectable 11th and set the fastest lap in the race before crashing out, and his other 2 appearances where he finished 12th at the IMS road course and 18th at Gateway. Through these 3 appearances, Lundqvist caught attention and he ended up signing a multi-year deal with Chip Ganassi, but make sure you remember that multi-year part. Obviously, with signing to a new team, he didn't complete the season with Shank as they wanted to put Tom Blomqvist in the car, as he would be their full-time driver going forward, which makes plenty of sense. Going into 2024, Lundqvist had a lot to prove, but he was at Ganassi, which was a 5-car team at the time, alongside Alex Palou, Scott Dixon, Marcus Armstrong, and Kyffin Simpson. 2024 was very solid for Lundqvist. He achieved his first ever pole position at Road America and scored 2 podiums at Detroit and Gateway. This led him to the Rookie of the Year title, finishing over 100 points above the next rookie, being his teammate Kyffin Simpson. He did make a fair few bit of mistakes, which I will address in a bit, but he showed talent and promise of being an up-and-coming star in the IndyCar series, and he had security because of his multi-year deal, right? Well, actually no. Just when it seems like Lundqvist finally caught a break, the charter system made its way into IndyCar. What the charter system does is it gives teams an actual piece of value with a guaranteed entry into every race, except the 500. That's guaranteed to be eligible for the Leader Circle program, which is the monetary bonuses for finishing positions. Seems good, but the catch is, teams were awarded a max of 3 charters. So teams like Ganassi that had 5 cars on the grid had to downsize to just 3. Now, this is a tough decision for Ganassi, as out of 5 drivers, all of them bring something special to the table. First of all, Alex Palou and Scott Dixon are locks. There's no chance CJR would ever think about moving on from either of these guys. So that leaves 1 car and 3 drivers, being Kyffin Simpson, Linus Lundqvist, and Marcus Armstrong. Armstrong announced his departure and signing with Meyer Shank, so that put the former Indy Lights rivals against one another. And for the same reason Lundqvist fell short in the past, Simpson got the seat over him because of financial backing. It's obviously not ideal, but it is the much smarter decision for Ganassi to make from the business perspective, and Simpson is not at all a bad driver, it's just really unlucky for Lundqvist. The ironic part about this is just like the Indy Lights funding, he reportedly had no idea about this termination until mid-January, where at the time, the only seat still unannounced was Rinus VK in the 18 at Dale Coyne. So when he found out he was unemployed, the job market was already cooked for him. Since then, 2025 didn't have much going for Linus Lundqvist, and neither did 2026 for that matter. In 2025 for Toronto, Lundqvist was announced as a reserve driver for McLaren because Nolan Siegel was recovering from an incident in Iowa, but Siegel ended up racing, so it didn't really matter. He didn't obtain a seat for 2026 and hasn't had plans of competing in any other series at the time of recording this. So what's the matter? Well, there are some pitfalls to Linus Lundqvist, and the amount that it matters is up to you. This is just what I've seen people mention when the question is asked why Lundqvist doesn't have a seat. The main reasons that it boils down to are finances, on-track mistakes, and a weak Indy Lights field. Finances are the most obvious reasoning here, with Lundqvist not bringing in nearly as much money as other drivers for both connection and publicity reasons. When you look at guys who have gotten seats in recent years like Stingray Robb, Devlin DeFrancesco, Kyffin Simpson, and Nolan Siegel, a common theme is that they bring money to the table. Whether that be through family business or private investing, they bring more to the table financially, and someone like Romain Grosjean is able to get sponsors easier because of notoriety. So there falls 2 reasons why Lundqvist struggles against some of these other guys. Next, when it comes to mistakes on track, people also love to point them out for Lundqvist, but to me, it's not as big of a deal as people portray it to be, because there are also results to back him up. One of the main verdicts is the 2024 Indy 500, where he made an error and crashed out. It was a 4-wide moment, so it was never really going to end well. Another moment was from the pole that Lundqvist got in Road America, when he ended up turned around on lap 1, but it wasn't really much of his fault, more on Armstrong. And the final incident was the second race in Milwaukee in 2024. This is the only one where I really think that you can actually put the blame on Linus Lundqvist, as it more or less was his fault that he didn't realize it was an aborted start, but it was also just a very chaotic situation in general. With those incidents, my question is more of, would you rather have a driver that makes occasional mistakes at the front, or one who never gets there? Finally, the last argument against him is a weak Indy Lights field in the year that he won it all, which is actually pretty fair to say. In 2022, when Lundqvist won it all, there were 6 other full-time drivers who got an IndyCar appearance, being Stingray Robb, Hunter McElroy, Benjamin Peterson, Christian Rasmussen, Jacob Abel, and Kyffin Simpson. On paper, the only one of these guys to really do something in Indy is Rasmussen, so in those regards, it is kind of valid, but you do also have to take junior results with a little bit of a grain of salt. With all that being said, Linus Lundqvist has had a solid amount of bad luck, and a lack of finances to really make up for it. According to Marshall Pruitt, Lundqvist actually has had meetings with 2 teams, one in the midfield and one top team at St. Pete, and he has a manufacturer interested in his services. He also shows up to most races ready to go, so he is available as a last-second replacement if necessary. So he's kind of giving himself the chance if anything bad happens. And you know what they say, the best ability is availability. As it turns out, we might see a return in 2027 for Lundqvist, but what do you think? Does he deserve another shot, or has he run his course?